Welcome to a stretch session with me today. So this is going to run between 10 and 15 minutes. For those of you who join my face-to-face classes, particularly my Power Pilates class, will always allocate a section of that session. We're running between 10 and 15 minutes to stretch. That works really nicely for us as a cool down, but that doesn't necessarily have to always run after exercise. So this might suit you after you've done a class or gone for a run or a gym session, but it also might serve you very well if it's something you want to do in the morning. Some of you say to me that you wake up feeling particularly stiff and achy, so this might have a really nice set you up for the day feel, or you might have it at the end of your day where you feel that you might have sat at your desk for a particularly long period of time. You might have been quite active during your day and just want to get those muscles sort of moving. So we're going to run through a few fairly basic stretches for you to do, and you don't need a particular huge amount of space. So I'm literally just going to work on my mat today, no equipment needed. You can always add in resistance bands if you feel that you want to add something into your stretch session, but today I'm working just with my body and my mat. So I'm going to start just standing really. I'm not going to overthink my feet. I'm just going to stand, feel my feet into the ground. And I'm just going to start with a neck stretch. So especially for those of you who might wake up having slept a bit funny, this might feel quite nice. So we're going to take our hands, interlace them behind our head. So I'm holding really around the back of my head here, not my neck, but around the back part of my head where ponytails tend to sit for those of you who've got a ponytail. So I'm going to use the heels of my hands to squeeze in a little bit towards my skull, and then I'm going to take a nice deep breath in, and on my out breath I'm going to try and lift my head off my shoulders and pull my shoulders down at the same time. So head pulling upwards, shoulders pulling downwards, creating length at the back of the neck, and I'm going to continue to hold that for a little bit. So I've got the heels of my hands pushing in together and creating this upward lift. I want to be sure that I drop my chin down a little bit so that I've got length at the back of my neck here, and I'm not scrunching the back of my neck. So nice and long, and then you can release here. Breathing in. As you breathe out, a little squeeze and a nice little lift. Good. Hold it there. Actively pulling your shoulders down, feeling the awareness of your armpits, and trying to pull your head upwards and relax. We're going to take two more of those. Breathing in. And breathing out, squeeze and lift. Nice stretch there. And relax, last one, breathe in. And then breathe out, and squeeze and lift. So this is just lengthening the back of that neck. And in a moment we're going to do the sides. Holding it here for a second, then gently release the pressure, but keep the hands connected, and then release the arms down to your side. Wonderful. We're now going to take a stretch with the side neck muscles. So can you take your hand over your head? You're going to place it where your temple is here. Whilst I'm doing that, I want to almost push my head in towards my hand. I'm going to place my other hand on my shoulder. Some of you don't feel that you can touch your shoulder. That's fine. You can take a nice long arm here. Okay. I'm going to breathe in, and on my out breath, I'm going to separate the two. So I'm going to stretch the two aside and create a nice diagonal line between the crown of my head and my shoulder. Whilst I'm in this position, I've still got some pressure pushing in towards this hand here. So I'm not entirely collapsing. Instead, I'm sort of lengthening and strengthening at the same time and holding it here. Can you circle your elbow backwards? We're just going to go nice and slow in about a saucer-sized circle here. Again, if you're struggling to touch your shoulder, you can have a nice long arm here and do it this way. We're going to join you on that in just a second for those of you who are already working with a long arm. Now we're going to take the arm nice and long, so if you're still already there, you just continue, and we're going to palm up, take that arm in a circle backwards. And you can see that I've still maintained this diagonal line between the crown of my head and my arm. I've not left my arm up here or too close to my body. Keep that head pressing into your hand, and then we're going to still the arm. I'm going to bring that arm down towards my side, push my head into my hand to draw my head upright. And then you're going to release here and bring that arm down. Really normal to feel a little lightheaded here. We've done a lot of release work through the neck, so that's absolutely fine. If you need to take a moment, then please do. Let's go on the other side. So hand over towards our temple, fingertips to shoulder or hand that remains out. I'm going to take a nice breath in, and on my out breath, continue that pressure into that hand and draw the two apart. Nice neck stretch here. So you might notice that one side feels quite different to the other. That's absolutely normal, but it's good to check in with that and see which side perhaps needs the most amount of stretching. Maybe it's the side that you sleep on, or how you positioned your computer monitors if you sit at the desk. We're going to hold this stretch here, and then I'm going to circle that elbow backwards. So I'm scooping it forward towards the front, pressing it back. This pressure, if I am touching my shoulder, is maintaining a downward pressure to keep my shoulders down at all times. Nice, nice little stretch here. Good. Then we're going to take a long arm, and with palm up, nice circles. You can also feel a bit of tingling sensation down towards your fingertips. That's okay. There's also some nice nerve flossing going on. That's always good as well. So we're going to take a nice stretch here, hold it here, bring the arm down, push the head into the hand, maintain the pressure for a second, then release it, and then come down. Wonderful. Take a nice little shoulder roll for me. And again, just checking in with your shoulders and how they might feel or sound as you move the shoulders around. And I'm keeping my elbows long here so that it's my shoulders doing the movement, and I'm thinking about widening the collarbones and allowing my shoulder blades behind me to move on my rib cage. Nice. I'm going to take a nice arm up here and then a stretch over to the side. And I'm thinking about opening up my ribs and my armpit here in a nice side bend. Good. I'm now going to stand sideways so you can see what I'm going to do with my back. So as I stand sideways here, I'm then going to round my back. I've got a little scoop in my tummy here. We're going to round my back. I'm keeping my head low, my tailbone drawing underneath me, and almost lifting those back ribs to the ceiling to stretch through those. Then I'm going to take the opposite arm to which I started with, and then draw myself out of that stretch back up to standing. Lovely. I'm going to repeat that several times, taking the arm up. So we go over here, opening up those ribs, nice side stretch. We're going to hollow that tummy, bend the knees, round the back, and stretch through those back ribs. Taking the opposite arm over the front of you and lifting up to the side. We're going to do one more each side. Nice big breath in. And side bend. Lovely. And then round the back, soften the knees, scoop the tummy, and then pull out the other side. Good. Last one, and a nice breath in. Side bend over, and then soften the knees, round the back, pull the opposite arm across the body, and open. Don't worry if you struggled with the coordination of that, absolutely fine. Ultimately, what we're trying to do there is open up the sides of the rib and open up the back ribs too. So if you manage to achieve that in your own way, that's absolutely fine. We're now going to come down to the floor. So I brought myself down into this staggered kneeling position here. And for this stretch, we're going to get into this hip flexor, all right? So we're going to do a hip flexor stretch and a hamstring stretch down the back of our legs. And I want the setup to be quite clear, that we want the knee to be above the ankle at all times here, and I'm going to try and avoid this happening where my knee is over my toes, all right? So this is important here. I'm going to place my hands down by my feet and tuck my back toes underneath. I'm going to then push my heel away to lengthen that back leg here. And then I can use my hands, but I do want some abdominal engagement to pull myself into this nice stretch here. So keeping it nice and steady, and with this nice push down a little bit with the tailbone, so we can really get into the hip flexor here. These stretches can be quite intense, so if you need to come down, please do. But ideally what we're looking for is a hold of a stretch for between 20 and 30 seconds as a minimum in order for that stretch reflex to kick in and the muscles to start to adapt to a new length. So we're going to hold it here, nice big breath. And then I'm going to ask you to place your hands down again, and can you straighten your front leg and try and keep your chest as low to the leg as you possibly can. I'm going to try and lengthen from the base of my spine so I can try and get, and you'll feel here, a big hamstring stretch down the back of that front leg. Again, we're going to hold it here. I've got my hands on the floor, but I am trying to keep my shoulders down and not up by my ears. So keeping the shoulders down where you can, and taking long, slow breaths. Breathing in, and breathing out. See if you're going to lower yourself a bit more into that stretch as you go. And breathing in, and out. Relaxing, relaxing, relaxing. Good. Last breath here. And out. You're then going to very slowly bend the front knee and the back knee to bring yourself down onto the floor. Good. And once with this side, we're going to do the glute as well. So can you then place your hands a bit further forward? I'm then going to bring that leg, that foot, to the opposite hip. So I've got my right leg here. So I've left my knee on the right side, but I brought my foot on a diagonal slant to my left hip. And then I'm going to slide down and take a little pigeon stretch here. I'm going to widen my elbows and see if I can get my head down to the floor. Don't worry if you can't, that's where you're aiming to be. And now I'm feeling that in my right glute muscle. So the leg that is bent is which one is feeling the stretch here. So take a nice few breaths. Shoulders down. Good. Few breaths here. You're welcome to hold this for longer. You might want to pause the video, hold certain stretches, and then replay and catch up. That's absolutely fine. If you feel that your body needs a particular stretch and to hold it for longer, please make sure that you do that. I'm then going to use my hands to push into the floor, and then I'm going to tuck my toes behind me, push back up and remove that leg from its diagonal position, and then I'm just going to bring in the other leg and I can sit back. In order to make this transition to the other side, I'm going to place my bottom on the floor and take my legs out into a wide position here. Now, everyone's going to have different flexibility, so don't worry if your legs aren't all the way to the side. They are where they are in terms of your body. I'm going to push myself forward slightly, and then I'm going to use my hands to come down and hold a stretch here. And I'm going to use my body weight to help me here. So heads weigh 8 pounds-ish, there or thereabouts. So we're going to use gravity and the weight of our body to help us with these stretches. So as I lean forward, chest driving towards the floor, I'm feeling that now in my inner thighs, groin area, as I allow my chest to lean towards the floor. Whilst you're here, it's important that you check that your kneecaps are still facing the ceiling and that they haven't rolled inwards. So do check that, because we want to minimise any strain on the knees. Relax those shoulders, take some nice long breaths, shoulders down. Good. Keep breathing. And with every out breath, you're trying to relax into that stretch just a little bit more. Now, it's best to work with long legs here, so don't over widen your legs and then have bent knees. Take the shallower stretch and keep the back of the leg nice and long, so we're lengthening the hamstrings at the same time. Walk those hands back towards you, take a nice sitting position here, breathe in. And then we're going to go again. I want you to check in with, is it easier? Can I get further? Can I hold it for longer? And that's not a competition with yourself. That's just a check in to see what you're feeling. You don't have to go any further or for any longer.
but it's just worth noting whether that first initial stretch has encouraged those muscles to relax and lengthen, and we might be able to get into a new range of motion. Nice breath in here. As you breathe out, walk those hands back, peel that spine up. You're going to sit really tall, see if you can take your hands out to the side and then draw those legs together and then bring them in. That could be a little tender too, all right? So take your time. We're now going to go on to the other side to work that hip flexor hamstring stretch. So I'm turning this way now, and I'm going to use my left leg, and it doesn't matter if you're on a different leg setting, that's absolutely fine. We take this split lunge, and we're going to make sure that that knee is over my ankle joint. Placing those hands down to the side, I'm going to tuck my back toes under and push that heel away. Using my abdominals and my hands, I'm going to bring myself into this lunge position here, opening up my hip, and trying to breathe. I'm going to use pressure on my hands and keeping my shoulders down to keep my chest up here. Try and breathe. This is also a really good stability challenge, finding that stability in the pelvis, using the core, keeping those shoulders down. We're going to hold it here for a couple of breaths. Nice long breath. Breathing in, driving that back leg away, and thinking a little scoop on that bottom to really open up that hip. Brilliant if you've been sat on a chair all day. Lovely. Then place your hands down by your sides and then straighten that front leg. And see if we can get the full hand down on the floor and the chest down towards the thigh. And that's just an aim, that's not something you have to do, that's just where you're headed. And breathe into the stretch. Try and lengthen the spine, driving the back heel down. You've got nice pressure in those hands, so you can feel safe to come out of this stretch at any point. If you've got particularly tight hamstrings, you might want to use some books at home, hardback preferably, to stack underneath your hands, so you can raise your hands slightly higher off the floor, and it makes the stretch slightly less intense. Holding it here, and then I'm going to bend the front knee and the back knee at the same time. Lovely. And then I'm going to come into this pigeon stretch and bringing that left leg now to the right hip. So I've got my knee remains on the left side, my foot is now under the right hip, and I'm going to lengthen the leg away, bringing my hands down and resting my chest down if that's available to me. That's not the same for everybody, so please don't worry if that's not you today or this month, this year, that's fine, that's where we're headed. You've got this nice ability to use the pressure in your hands to control the depth and intensity of the stretch. Shoulders down, nice steady breathing. Good. Holding it here. Relaxing with every out breath. So I'm feeling this in my left bottom cheek, around the back of that hip as well. It's going to help my hip mobility and again increase that range of motion. Holding it here for one more breath. And then taking my hands towards my sort of in line with my shoulders, picking up those toes and pushing off those hands. I'm going to bring the foot back onto its side of my body and bring my knees together. I'm going to shuffle back slightly here, and I'm now going to come back to standing. So I want you to tuck your toes underneath you, and we're going to rock back into a little crouch here. Hands are going to be on the floor. My elbows are almost hugging the side of my knees, and I can see very clearly here that my knees are over my toes. That's where I want them to be. I'm going to breathe in, and on my out breath, keep my head down, but lift my hips towards the ceiling. I have to be quite careful here. My knees hyperextend, so I'm making sure that I don't overlock the back of my knees. I'm trying to keep the weight towards the front of my foot so I can really lengthen that tailbone to the ceiling and feel that stretch again down the back of my legs. Now, some of you won't have this range of flexibility. You might need to hold onto your thighs or your shins in order to be in this position. If we're lengthening hamstrings, they need to be long, so don't be so far forward you have to have a bent knee. You want a long leg, and you take your body up as high as it needs to go. If you require some extra stretch, you can hold onto your elbows and dangle down, providing a little bit of traction into that spine. Taking again nice steady breaths. Placing those hands down onto the floor, bend the knees again, making sure they tap over your toes. Drop that tailbone down, lift from that tummy and restack bit by bit that spine as you come to standing. And then you're going to come back, roll off those shoulders. Hopefully feel a little bit more stretch through neck, shoulders, ribs, hips, backs of the legs, front of the legs, and that you're all good for either the rest of your day or a nice peaceful sleep. Thanks very much.